Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast. What's special today is that today we're doing a whole rebrand of the show. So, bad news and good news. The bad news is that Let's Talk New York is done. We're done with that phase. We're done with the studio that I used to be in because I decided that this phase of my life is over. And now I'm rebranding and I'm creating a whole new podcast that's more aligned with everything that I'm doing and everything I usually talk about. And you guessed right, it's called Aligned as Fuck. So that's my new brand. That's my new show. It's called Aligned as Fuck. And what's so unique and it's so special about it is because, first of all, I'm so excited, as you can see, to start this podcast. Secondly, I think that it kind of gives me a broader area to talk about, and I can talk about anything. So those of you who were watching Let's Talk New York, you probably seen that most of the times it's not only about New York, and it's talking about things like branding and healthy lifestyle, businesses. And a lot of times these episodes have a lot to do with our internal world and not necessarily with New York per se. And I decided that that's what I want to go with, especially looking at the demographics of the channel, understanding that a lot of you guys are not from New York and still want to watch the show. So I want to accommodate you better and make it a little bit more relevant to your lifestyle, to your life, wherever you are on this universe. We're going to talk a lot about our personal inner world and how to create this better life for yourself, whatever it is that you desire. So we're going to talk again a lot about personal growth, healthy lifestyle, tips and tricks to how to maintain a certain lifestyle, how to achieve your dreams, how to get to your goals, how to be and exist in this world in the way that you want to exist and not just go through life wandering around not knowing what you are and who you are. All these things we're gonna explore. Again, the show is called Aligned as Fuck, and I hope you like the new branding that I did. Check it out. I created it on my own, and everything on this channel is gonna be about you guys. Which brings me to the topic of today, letting go of what no longer aligns with you. You're allowed to change your mind. I think it's something that I kind of struggled a little bit with because I felt like, oh, I started this show, so now I have to keep going and I have to push it and I have to continue. Although I started realizing that I'm not enjoying it as much anymore, it's no longer what it used to be. And I shifted and my mindset shifted because this show went for a year and a half, a year, I would say. And I realized that during this year was crazy for me and I changed so much. Everything shifted in my life and I felt like the show was still delivering on something that I started a year ago when my mind and my mindset, everything was shifting and I wanted to shift, but the show was limiting and it was called Let's Talk New York. So I felt like I need to talk only about New York and deliver only about New York. And what I wanted to tell you guys is to tell you about mindsets and healthy practices and things that are not necessarily only about New York. So because the first episode, letting go of what no longer serves you, it kind of aligns with the episode because you're allowed to let go. You're allowed to change your mind. And I think there's a big difference between quitting and letting go of what no longer serves you, because often we associate letting go with, oh, it was too hard and people would think I just gave up, and then we don't want to quit, so we keep persisting on doing something that we don't see the value in it anymore, but because everyone will think something, we keep going, and that's where thinking of the idea of letting go of something that no longer serves me really helps me to understand whether I'm quitting because it's too hard and because I'm just lazy, or just because that's not what I want to do. And more often than not, it's really just because I feel like I need to shift a little bit to something different. And if that's you, stay tuned because we're going to talk about all of these things. So before we start, I want to talk about why we get stuck. Why do we get stuck in something that we feel like it's no longer something that serves us? Why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep going to the same job? Why do we maintain the same relationships? Why do we stick to something so hard, although we don't feel like it's something that benefits us anymore? And to make you feel better, this is something that we all do and it's so common. First of all, it's really scary to change. Change something in your life. Just generally, people are so afraid of change because it's getting out of your comfort zone. And getting out of your comfort zone, it's ridiculously scary for most people in the world, especially if you didn't experience much change. If you finished college, you did your degree, you received this, you got this amazing job. And after a few years, you're like, you know what? I'm not feeling it. So now you need to understand, okay, am I not feeling it because it's a phase? Or do I really want to be a chef and I'm stuck in this office doing finance? And I think the first question that you need to ask yourself is whether you're truly happy where you are. Because oftentimes we have a hard time separating and understanding whether we are unhappy or just burned out. And there is a big difference between being unhappy and burned out. You can work in a job that you really, really like, but you're burned out because you took a little bit too much on yourself. And there are other areas in your life that you feel kind of like, that maybe they're shaky. And then that translates to another area in your life and you're burned out. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to see your friends. You don't want to do anything. That's one thing. Another thing is understanding that there is one area in your life that you don't feel like it's fulfilling you anymore. And if that is where you are, if you feel like you're stuck in a certain position in your life when you're like, it doesn't work for me anymore. I don't feel happy about it. I changed my mind. I have different plans now. I want to grow more. I want to shift. So this episode is for you because we're going to have another episode about being burned out versus being lazy or not knowing your purpose. But today we're talking about shifting your life to something better. And first of all, we needed to understand whether you really want to shift or do you need to adjust certain areas in your life to feel a little bit more fulfilled and happy. And that can be like the smallest things because if we think about that, I am pretty happy with where I am right now in my life. But I didn't feel like the episodes I was doing and the content I was creating was necessarily aligned with what I wanted to give you guys. And that's why I'm shifting. I'm not shifting my identity. I'm not shifting anything too major and too crazy. But I did feel like I had a certain obligation. And I was like, well, I started this radio show and I was committed and everyone knows that I have a show that's called Let's Talk New York. And it took me a long time to understand that if I changed it, people would probably not think any less of me, which initially was on my mind. Initially, I was like, oh my God, people will think that I quit yet again. People will think that I'm not responsible, blah, 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 blah. But if you really think about it, most of these times, these are just voices in your own head. This is just you mirroring what you think of yourself because you think, oh my God, I'm going to quit. I'm not good enough. I'm not responsible enough. And you think that everyone automatically will think that. When in fact, that's not necessarily true. When I told people that I'm shifting into a different podcast, I was so freaking excited about it. People got excited with me. They were like, oh my God, this is such a great idea. Now you can talk about more topics. You can invite more guests. You can do more things. You can save all this time going to Brooklyn. And I was like, yes, exactly. No one judged me. No one said, oh my God, you're quitting. And if somebody would have said that, I would be like, yeah, what did you do with your life lately? Because most of the times people who judge you the most are the not doing much with their lives, so they have time to judge you. But this is okay. This is outside of the point. So yes, it's not a bad thing to change and shift. It might be so scary to suddenly tell your parents you quitting the law firm because you decided you want to be a movie star or like a TV star, a chef, a doctor, and you're going back to school, whatever it is. It's okay. It's okay. And many people do that. And that's completely fine. We're not supposed to do just one thing our entire lives. It's okay to change our minds and it's okay to experiment and explore different things. And I think especially you guys, if you're in your 20s, this is the time for you to explore those different paths, to explore this different opportunities you have in life and not get stuck into just one thing just because you invested too much time in it already. So you're like committed. I think before you make the change, for you to understand whether it's the right thing for you to do and where to shift from where you're at now, you need to ask yourself a few crucial questions to understand where it is that you're going and why. And I think and why? This is one of the questions actually that I recommend everyone who tells me they're a little bit lost. Every time I feel a little bit lost, I try to go back to this one question that ties everything together, and this is the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we at this place right now? Why did we go to college to study journalism? Why? Is this your passion? Is it because your parents told you? Is it because it makes a lot of money? Why do you want to stay in this relationship? Why did you start this relationship? Why? Are you in love? Are you just afraid to be alone? What is your why? On this channel, I mostly concentrate on careers and on our personal growth, but this why and this shifting, it's about everything. It's not only about careers. So if you are in a relationship and you're not sure anymore, or if it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, it can be a friendship, it doesn't matter. But if you're unsure about a certain relationship because it doesn't make you feel good anymore, because you don't feel like it's moving any forward, you can always ask yourself the why. Why do I need this person in my life? Why am I afraid to lose this person so much? Why do I cling to a career I'm not enjoying? Why am I afraid? Why am I scared to make this move? And this why will help you understand so many things about yourself. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Many times when I lose myself and I kind of lose motivation to do everything I do, because I do so many things, but many times I forget the why. And I feel so exhausted and I'm like, I'm tired of doing this and this and that. But then if I go back and I'm asking myself, why am I doing this? To build a better future? Well, that's a good reason. Why do I want a better future? I want to be financially stable. Why do I want to be financially stable? Oh, because I want to travel. Why do I want to travel? So I think the idea is to ask yourself 5 whys. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why did you answer this that way? Why did you answer this way? And after you answer these difficult questions, it will be easier for you to understand whether you're shifting to the right place. And it's important to say that if you're shifting to something and then after you explore and experimented and you tried and you're like, you know what? Nah, it's not for me. I still don't feel it. I don't feel like I'm happy, I'm fulfilled, I'm on the right path. That's fine. That's totally fine. I think I hear so many times from people that saying, oh, I'm always changing my mind. I tried this and I dropped it. I tried this and I dropped it. And I think people look at it in the wrong way. I think you experimenting with different things and learning all those different skills, it's one of the best things we can do nowadays. You can actually explore. And if you have the opportunity, if you're in your 20s and you still live with your parents and you're exploring things, I think you have a great opportunity to really experiment and see what you want to do, rather than being like 21 and living somewhere on your own, you know, struggling for money, kind of like working every day in this one place that you committed to and not stopping for a second to think whether you're happy or not, and just like staying there because this is a secure situation that you somehow received, right? So I encourage you to explore, and I encourage you to stop seeing change as failure rather than growth. Change is growth. Shifting is growing, understanding yourself, your mindset, your body, your heart, and changing it to fit to where you are now. There are 4 things that I would ask myself before I decide to shift to something. These 4 things will help you understand whether you're really shifting because you're not fulfilled with it anymore and you need to change. Or maybe it's just a phase and you need to wait it out, or you need to do like small adjustments but still pursuing whatever it is that you're pursuing. The first one is that you feel drained by something that used to light you up. The second thing is that you're forcing it too much. It used to flow, you used to enjoy it, it used to be quote unquote easy for you, and now it's forced and it feels unnatural. The third and a very major one would be that you're fantasizing about a different life. Rather than fantasizing about a future that you will have doing what you're doing, you're fantasizing about something completely different. And a simple example of that will be that you're, again, sitting in your law firm, but instead of thinking about yourself in a courtroom in front of a judge, or like, being a judge or solving a crazy case, you're fantasizing yourself in front of Gordon Ramsay in MasterChef. That's a completely different thing. And then you need to rethink, okay, maybe that's not where I want to be. And the fourth thing will be you're staying just out of obligation. Like I mentioned before, you're staying because you already did it for so long and now you're kind of committed and you feel committed and you don't want to be the quitter. So you just stay out of obligation and not joy. Now, these four things, what I would recommend is you can have one without the other, and it doesn't mean you need to quit right away. I mean, if you're just having just a phase, like you need to really listen to yourself, because like if you just have a fantasy about participating in MasterChef, but you do like your job, that's okay. Like don't quit. That's, we all have like different fantasies about different things that we could do. Like life is full of possibilities. It's not just one thing. That's fine. So what I mean by these four things is try to see if you have all four. Because if you have all four of those things, probably you need some kind of shift and change in your life because something is not working there. And try to listen to your gut, because most of the times we do know what needs to happen. Oftentimes we ignore this voice out of fear of change and out of, social norms of some kind, and we're thinking to ourselves, nah, this is just me dreaming, being silly. What are you talking about, chef? No, like you will tell your parents, oh, I want to have my own restaurant one day, and they'll be like, what? There's no money in it. You're a lawyer. That's better. And you're like, yeah, you're probably right. And then you stay where you are and you just stay stuck. But I will encourage you to explore your possibilities and opportunities. And we're going to have further episodes about how you can secure your financial situation before you're making all those changes if needed. Again, if you're young and you have the opportunity to experiment without, how do I say that? Without the fear of not being able to pay rent. So that's one thing. But I think like if you have obligations, you have things to pay, you have debt, you have whatever it is, and you have the secure job. So you kind of need to think and strategize how to do it correctly and not just like throw in everything. Well, I heard that's good to change, and then just like not thinking it over. That's not what I'm saying. And we're going to have episodes about that too. But this one is just for you to understand when it's time to shift and that it's okay to change your mind. Now, many times people that I talk with, whether it's my friends or people on Instagram or just people that I meet here in New York, they're telling me they're a little lost and they're rethinking their life and they're not sure what's happening, what they're doing. There's one thing that I love telling them all, because it's something that I did and something that helps me every time to realign my goals and my purpose and my next steps. And this one thing is a journal prompt. It's a homework that I want to give you guys after you finish watching this video. And if you're still watching this video, by the way, I would like if you can subscribe, like the video, because I'm releasing those episodes every 2 weeks, so twice a month. And every time it's going to be about something different. And because we're talking about being aligned as fuck, we're going to talk a lot about life in general, whether it's finances, habits, friendships, networking, career stuff, relationship stuff. We're going to talk about so many things. I'm so excited. And I have so many things to share with you guys. So if you like this episode, if you like the content, please let me know. If there's a specific topic you want me to talk about, please comment below and I will consider it for our episode in 2 weeks. But back to your journal prompt. The journal prompt would be, picture yourself in 5 years. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And don't just tell me, oh, I see myself here living in the city. No, I want you to really think about it. Like sit your ass down and think how your day, just a regular Monday, is going to look like in 5 years. How do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself in a big city, in a small town, on a farm? Do you see yourself waking up at 7 in the morning, or you see yourself waking up at 12 p.m.? Do you see yourself going to sleep early, or you see yourself partying all night? These questions are going to help you understand whether where you are now is aligned with your dream of where you want to be in 5 years. Because if you're going to tell me you want to be a lawyer, but in 5 years you're going to party all night, wake up at 12 p.m. and live on a farm, how are we doing this? How are we getting there? And probably you will get to the point when you will understand whether whatever you're doing now is gonna bring you to where you want to be in 5 years. Now, important point, this plan can change too, and it's fine. Whatever you do, needs to be aligned with your goal of where you see yourself in the future. But our dream of the future can change as well. If you would ask me 10 years ago where I want to see myself in 10 years, I would have a different vision than the vision that I have now. Now, when you ask me where do I see in 5 years, some things are a little bit different, and that's fine. And that's how we adjust. I think there's a lot of work to do while enduring you're doing the process of shifting and changing. It's not a one-day task. It's not something that you're just going to be like, okay, yeah, I decided tomorrow I'm leaving town. Like, it's going to take a little time for you to understand how to get to where you want to get. It's hard. It's not an easy task. It sounds like such an easy question. Oh, where do you see it in 5 years? But it's hard to answer sometimes. It's not easy. But I want you to go in depth on this question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Are you in a relationship with the person that you with now? Or maybe you don't see them in your future? Why? Ask yourself the why and try to understand what areas in your life are aligned with your dream life for the future. And the ones that don't, those are the ones you need to work on and change. So this was my episode for today. It's a little bit shorter. It's a little bit on the explorational side of what's going to happen from now on. But I am enjoying what is happening. It's very, very different than the radio that I used to do, because the radio was very much live. So there was no correcting myself or fixing little errors or like the editing after. But I feel like this concept is a little bit more to the point, is a little bit more direct in a way. And I would really like to hear from you guys what you want to see more, because there are a lot of guests that I didn't interview yet. And the one thing that I'm very excited about is in Newtown, in the previous show, I had a certain slot of time that I needed to be in the studio. And many of my guests, many of the people who wanted to come for an interview or for an episode, they simply couldn't, because it was Wednesday, 8 in the morning, and they were working or they couldn't make it, and it was in Brooklyn. But now when I have my own time and I don't need to be obligated to a certain time and space, I have the freedom to bring more guests and more people that will find the time and will find and negotiate together the time that they can come into the studio, which is my living room. But they can still, they can still show up. I live really close to Manhattan, so it's not a problem for people to show up. So I'm really, really excited. So if there's any guest, any topic, anything you want to know, you want me to talk about, if you have any questions about the process, please let me know below in the comments. And one last thing before we go, I just wanted to wish you a great week, a great weekend, a great next week, because I'm not going to see you. And I'm going to see you here in 2 weeks on Tuesday at 11 in the morning. And we're going to talk a little bit more about lifestyle and how to be aligned as fuck.